What's that little thing doing? Respected Bhakta Vrinda, if someone could kindly send a message, I can't hear you because the mic's in, but if you can just send a message that I can be heard and seen. What does that say?
Yes, Prabhuji, we are hearing you.
We'll sing this song, Shuddha Bhakata, very nice song. You can gradually learn the bhajans. Prabhupada would sing these bhajans. Prabhupada said all of the conclusions of Krishna consciousness are there in the bhajans, full with the devotional sentiment and beautiful. They're so beautiful. The song Shuddha Bhakata by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Shuddha Bhakata Chadana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Shiva Padama Shidhi Premaloti Kadamula Madhav Tite Bhogdi Janani Chatane Palana Kori Krishna Boshati Boshati Bole Parama Adore Bore Gaurama Jeshabashtane Korala Brahman Range Sheshabashtan Peribo Ami Pranoyi Bhakata Shange Mridanga Bada Shunite Mon Obshada Shad Jache Koda Bihito Kirtana Shani Anande Hridoya Nache Jadin Grihe Bhajana Deke Grihete Goloka Paya Chardana Shidhu Dekiya Ganga Shuka Nashim Paya Jural Murati Dekiyamo Paramananda Hoya Prashad Sheb Korite Ho Shokul Prapancha Ja Tulashi Deki Chudai Pran Madhavato Shani Jani Koda Pri Shaka Shebane Jibana Sharta Kamani Bhakti Binod Krishna Bhajane Anukulla Paya Jaha Pratidibashe Paramashuke Svikaro Korayeta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnu Padparam Hangsha Paribhajaka Charjashtatar Sadasri Samaj Shila Abhay Charnar Binda Bhakti Vedanta Shami Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishtata Acharya Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shamabeta Gaud Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sisi Nitai Gaud Ishitana Pramanandi Hari Hari Bo Om Jnana Tamananda Shagyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusha Maritanyana Tasma Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Smrti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Shari Shri Devi Gaudavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shannavari Pashtata Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shri Go Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. A more detailed hearing of the Madhya Lila Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad. We're beginning today and we'll carry on for the next 6 weeks. And we'll move into Madhya Lila and we'll keep going through the Madhya Lila. It's 26, 27 chapters actually. Madhya Lila Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad. It begins Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai, Vishwamba, Dijamani, the crash duel of the Navadip Brahmins. On the plea of performing the Shraddha ceremony for his father Jagannath Mishra, he went to Gaya, Dham, and there, upon meeting, just by seeing Srila Ishwara Puri Prabhupada, it's very beautiful, just by seeing Ishwara Puri Prabhupada, he felt that his journey had been successful. Tamar dekli e matro koti pitri gon, sheikone sharabanda pai bimochon. Just by seeing you, koti pitri gon, then millions, 10 millions of my forefathers, Sheikone, just by seeing you at that very moment, Sharvabandha Pai Vimochana, delivered from all all bondage. And in this way, Mahaprabhu, meeting Ishwara Puri Prabhupada, he began to manifest. What is that? That began the Prema Bhakti Korila Prakash. Prema Bhakti Korila Prakash. He began the pastimes of Prema Bhakti. After that time, he'd been absorbed in the learning as a great scholar, the most famous scholar. Shardava Navadipe, Shardava Koilo Doni. All through Navadipa, you could hear from the lips of the Navadip residents, Nimai Pandit Odda Pakshiromani, that Nimai Pandit is the greatest jewel of all of the professors. And in this way, he was absorbed in the Vidyalila, and meeting Ishwara Puri Prabhupada, then Prema Bhakti Koilo Shubha Aramba, Prem Bhakti Prakash Koilo Aramba. He Krishna consciousness and love of God and preaching Krishna consciousness. And now we're hearing about Mahaprabhu having visited Gaya Dham, how he returns to Mayapur. And what happened when he returned to Mayapur. And it's a whole different flavor and it's very wonderful. And so this Madhya Lila, it will carry on now from the Mahaprabhu's return to Mayapur after visiting Gaya Dham and receiving initiation from Ishwara Puri Prabhupada. He returns to Mayapur Dham and we'll see that his behavior has changed. Kiba mantra dilo gorshai kibata ball, jopade mantra korale pago. What mantra? Kibatat ball, what is its power? Jopate mantra, chanting the mantra korale pago. I become crazy, crazy for Krishna. So now we'll be going to see the Prem Bhakti Prakasha Koilo Aramba. The Mahaprabhu is demonstrating the pastimes of love of God and freely distributing love of God. Now this Madhya Kanda, it continues on for 27 chapters. Actually, it covers a 4-year period of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from around about the time of 20, when he was initiated in Gaya Dham, to the time he was 24, when he accepted sannyas. And that's the end of the Madhya Lila. This is Chaitanya Bhagavad. And then the sannyas pastimes are in the Anta Lila, in the Chaitanya Bhagavad. Now, as we've discussed in the past, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, however, because the purpose of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is to give a more focused description of Mahaprabhu's pastimes after taking sannyas. Because Kaviraj Goswami, he was inspired by the devotees. He received a dream. Jamedpur, not far from Mayapur. When you come, you can come and visit Jamedpur, the place where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was born and lived, his ancestral home, and where he had a dream. Lord Nityananda appeared to him and said, go to Vrindavan, and you will attain all perfection. Immediately he got up from that dream, he went to Vrindavan. He wasn't exactly sure what would happen, but in Vrindavan he was inspired by the Goswami-gon who were staying in Radha Kund, Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das Goswami particularly, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami as gurus, but Raghunath Das Goswami particularly instructed him in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after taking sannyas, particularly in Jagannath Puri. Raghunath Das Goswami, he had heard those pastimes from Swarup Damodar. You remember when Raghunath Das Goswami went to Jagannath Puri, then he was placed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself under the care of Swarup Damodar, Mahaprabhu's personal secretary. And he was given the name Swarupa Raghu, the Raghu of Swarup. And in this way, being very intimately connected and receiving the shelter of Swarup Damodar Goswami, then Raghunath Das Goswami, he heard all of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Puri. He was also in Puri, and so he was very familiar with the Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Puri. And he was residing in Radha Kund. Mahaprabhu having departed, he was residing in Radha Kund. When you go to Radha Kund, you can see the Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. You'll see the 24 Akhanda Kirtan going on there. Very wonderful. You can visit the Samadhi, Bhajan Kutir of Raghunath Das Goswami. And so he was there in Radha Kund, and Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami's, he had a Bhajan Kutir there, also in Radha Kund, and so he heard everything, specifically Mahaprabhu's pastimes after taking sannyas. So you'll see that Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, the first 12 chapters, a philosophical description of the Panchatattva. Sango Pangashta Parashadam, 5 associates, Panchatattva Krishna, Bhakti Rupa, Sharupakam, Bhakta Avataram, Bhaktakyam Namami, Bhakti Shaktikam. These 5 associates, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas. These 5 associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're described who they are. Their tattva is described, Panchatattva, in the first 12 chapters of the Adi Leela, and then the subsequent 5 chapters are a summary of Mahaprabhu's Navadip pastimes. Navadip pastimes, so the childhood pastimes are there in brief, Vidya Leela is there, and then marriage, 2 wives, and then Mahaprabhu takes sannyas. And then at the beginning of the Madhya Leela, he's journeying to Jagannath Puri. So he arrives in Jagannath Puri, chapter 6, delivers Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The 27 chapters, Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu's preaching. Taramodde Choi Bacho, Gamon Agamon, Kabu Dokin, Kabu Gaur, Kabu Vrindavan. Kaviraj Goswami describes that Madhya Leela, although it's a shorter period, Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, 18 years, 20 years. And Madhya Leela, 18 years. Madhya Leela is only 6-year period, 6-year period. And that's described in great detail, although it's just shorter. Dharamodde Choi Botchor, 6 years. Adi Leela is longer and Anta Leela is longer. Madhya Leela is shorter period, 6 years. Mahaprabhu traveling from Jagannath Puri. Kabu Dokin, Kabu Gaur, Kabu Vrindavan. Kabu Dokin, he did the South Indian tour. Kabu Gaur, he returned to Bengal. And Kabu Vrindavan, he eventually journeyed to Vrindavan. So in those Gamon Agamon, coming and going from Puri, Mahaprabhu's teachings, his principal teachings are there. To Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and then others, Venkat Bhatta, but specifically these 5, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Prakasananda Saraswati, as described in teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So that's Madhya Leela. So that's what's described briefly in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So therefore, Kaviraj Goswami, he describes more elaborately in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he briefly describes Navadip Leela. So these pastimes, what we'll be hearing in Madhya Leela, are the full description of Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan pastimes with his loving associates. Gaudangero Shangi Gone, Nitya Shita Korimane. We'll sing that song sometime on of Narottam Thakur Mahashaya, that Mahaprabhu's associates in Navadip, he was there and for 4 years and he's performing the Sankirtan pastimes. This is 27 chapters of Madhya Leela, so we desire to share these with you online on the weekly sessions, and we're beginning today the Pratamadai, Madhakanda, Madhakanda Kota Bhaishano, Ekchite. Oh, brothers and sisters, listen, Ekchite. Ekchite, very attentively, Ekchite. Madhakanda Kota Bhaishano, Ekchite. Listen very attentively to the pastimes of the Madhakanda. Sankirtan Aramba Hoilo Genomate. Sankirtan Aramba Hoilo. How the Sankirtan movement began, Genomate, are all described in great detail here in the Madhulila. Gaya, we're reading from text 10 of chapter 1, Madhya Khanda, Chaitanya Bhagavat, text 10. Gaya, Kori Oilen, Sri Gaura Shundor, having returned from Gaya Dham, Paripunno Dhani Hoilo, Navadip Nagor, Paripunno Dhani Hoilo, Navadip, Nodiya Nagor, Gaya Kori Oilen, Sri Gaura Shundor, Paripunno Dhani Hoilo, Nodiya Nagor, Paripunno Hoilo, that Paripunno Dhani Hoilo. There's so much the whole of Nodiya, Paripunno Dhani, was full of the sound of that Nimai, that Sri Gaushundar has come back from Gaya. As Sri Gaushundar has returned from Gaya, that sound, that news was Paripunna Dhani Hoilo Nodiya Nagar. It was fully, it's just everywhere in Nodiya. That Gaushundar has returned from Gaya Dham. So just see, the relationship that the residents of Nodiya Navadip, the residents of Nodiya Navadip, the relationship that they have with Sri Gaushundar is that they're in love with him. They're already in love with him. Of course they're in love with him. Gaudangera Shangi Gone Nitta Shida Korimane. Srila Narottam Thakur Mahashaya, he describes that the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're all eternal associates. Gauranga Shangi Gone Nitta Shida Korimane. They all appeared to participate in his pastimes, of the Sankirtan pastimes in Mayapur. So even prior to beginning the Sankirtan pastimes, even prior to beginning the Sankirtan Arambo Hoilo, the Sankirtan pastimes, still they are in love with him because they're his eternal, they're all eternal Nitya Siddha Parshad, eternal associates. So of course they're in love with him, even doesn't matter what he does. So he's a Vidya Leela, even though he wasn't engaging in a Sankirtan with them, but still they're always thinking about him, they're all attracted to him. Sarva Navadipe, Sharva Log Koilo Doni, Nimoy Pandit Oddapak Shiromani. All through Navadip, all you could hear from the lips of the people was that Nimoy Pandit is the crash jewel of the professors. Oddapak Shiromani. And so when he returned from Gaya, even people hadn't even understood that he's become changed person now. Even that wasn't a consideration. Just the fact that he'd returned. Paripunna Dhani Hoilo Nodiya Nagare. All through Nodiya, all you could hear was that Nimai Pandit has returned from Gaya Dham. Just see how much everyone was absorbed in him. So friends and relatives, they rushed to see the Lord, and they accompanied him. Some, as he was coming, when a great person comes, actually you should go out to receive them. We hear when Krishna was returning from Hastinapur to Dwarka, then all the Yadus, Balaram wasn't there in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He was traveling. So the Dwarkavasis, Balaram and Sambar and Ugrasena and they all stopped what they were doing when they heard Krishna blowing his conch. And they heard that, and so their depression was immediately dissipated, was immediately destroyed, hearing the conch shell of Krishna, Panchajanya. And then they stopped what they're doing, and immediately they stopped what they're doing, whatever it was, and they went out to greet him. So this is how you should greet a saintly person, not that he comes and you're just doing what you're doing and then you bump into him later in the day, Haribol Maharaj, nice to see you. No, you stop what you're doing and you go out and you receive him, go as far as you can. Some people go to the airport, that may not be possible, but when he arrives at the temple, then you're there, you're welcoming. And so here mentions that everyone had heard that Nimai Pandit was returning from Gaya, so they came to join him for the remainder of the journey. I remember many years ago, we did Navadip Mandal Parikrama in the Gopanima time, full Parikrama. We stayed out each night, and mostly we were barefoot. This is when we were younger in those days, and this is 30 years ago. And I remember we were coming back from, and I was fortunate to be able to accompany His Holiness Srila Jai Patakashami Guru Maharaj from Jogapit to Mayapur, walking down the road. It wasn't such a huge crowd, but to be able to at least to with him and walk with him as he came back from performing the full Navadip Parikrama. And of course he was walking then. And coming to the temple and see Radha Madhava, still an experience I remember. I felt I was entering the spiritual world, coming and seeing Radha Madhava Ashtashaki after performing that Parikrama. So you do that, you come, you join, and then you can come with that person, accompany them, they come and take darshan, and it's a welcome ceremony. His Holiness used to, when he would come Australia, we would meet him and he would come and sit. Upon arrival, he would sit in darshan, and then he would speak about where he'd been and different things. So it's the welcome, first impression. It's very important. You see how you're receiving an important person. It shows devotion, and it's very, very devotional, and it's Vedic reception. All the different, you can have all the different items of auspiciousness can be there. One moment, the technical adjustment I need to make. Bear with me for a moment. So all of the different ingredients of a reception you can have arranged. Banana trees and flowers and fruits and arati and the kirtan. So that's as we do in ISKCON. So here, not mentioned kirtan, but it mentioned because of the Sankirtan movement of Mahaprabhu we're just hearing it at the beginning now. But everybody, all of the friends, relatives, they all gathered. Some were walking in front, some were walking along with him, some were walking behind him. And in this way they all reached the house of Jagannath Mishra, and Mahaprabhu, he reciprocated with everybody in a befitting way. And everyone was so jubilant upon seeing Vishwambara return. Mahaprabhu explained that by your blessings I was able to visit Gaya Dham and return without any difficulty. And the different family members and friends, some were placing their hands on the Lord's head, live a long life, giving blessings, and others there were chanting Vedic mantras, a Brahminical environment, Brahminical society, they were chanting Vedic mantras. So Sachi Devi, upon seeing her son, she forgot herself. This is the second journey, major journey that Gaurasundar had made. He also made a journey earlier, about 3 or 4 years prior to this. He made a journey to East Bengal for a few months. Actually, at that time, Loki Priya, she passed away. She was so depressed due to his separation that Loki Devi, she passed away. When he returned, he discovered that due to the snake of separation. At that time, Mahaprabhu met with Tapan Mishra. That's another story we've shared with you in the past. So that was a journey that he made, and then now this is the second major journey that he's been. So he was away for some time. As we heard, he had an apartment there in Gaya, and he was cooking. He cooked for Srila Ishwarpuri Prabhupada. So he was away for some time. So Sachi Devi was so filled with joy that she forgot herself when she saw Nimai return. Lakshmi Devi, Vrindavan Das Thakur describes that Loki Jonok Kulai, that's the family of Lakshmi Devi. Lokir Jonok Kulai, Ananda Utilo. Their happiness had just expanded so much, it exploded. The whole family of Lakshmi Devi, that's Vishnu Priya. Lokir Jonok Kulai, Ananda Utilo, Poti mukha, that's poti mukhe dekiya loki dukkha gelo, seeing the face. Poti mukha deka, seeing the face of her husband. Poti mukha deka loki dukkha gelo, all of her unhappiness went far away. And the cloud of loneliness dissipated from the mind of Lakshmi Devi, seeing Goshunda's beautiful face. So that's the family members and friends. And now Vrindavan Thakur describes it, the Vaishnavas specifically. They were very happy, the Vaishnavas, and they also ran to see Vishwambar upon his return. The Lord, his behavior was somewhat different. He spoke very, and previously we knew that he was a very proud scholar, but he spoke very humbly and very softly and welcomed and such affectionate dealings to everybody. So everyone was so charmed by Vishwambar's behavior. And then returning to their homes, then he took a handful of confidential associates, intimate disciples. He took them to a solitary place to discuss more confidential topics about his pilgrimage. And he began to explain that, please hear the wonders of Krishna that I have seen. Please hear. He began to explain. Now Mahaprabhu, he's describing, we heard this a few weeks ago, we described in 2 sessions Mahaprabhu's visit to Gaya Dham. So now he's reflecting on the events and he's sharing with the devotees. And as we know, in those days there was nothing like Facebook. So nowadays wherever you go, you tell people everything that you're doing, and they know. But they had no idea what happened in Gaya, and so only from the lips of Mahaprabhu himself were they able to hear the descriptions, and Mahaprabhu began to explain that Gaya Bitor Matro Hoilo Prabesh, simply by entering Gaya Dham, just by entering Gaya Dham, Pratame Shunilam Mondol Bishesh, just that Mongol Bishesh, that just for entering Gaya Dham, I heard such auspicious sounds, which was so purifying. Mongol, Shunilo, Mongol Bishesh, Sahasra Vipra Pore, Bed Dhoni, thousands and thousands of Brahmins, Sahasra Vipra Pore, Bed Dhoni, they were reciting prayers from the Vedas. Deka, Vishnu Padoke, Tirtha, Kane, look, and they were saying, look everyone here, look at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu at this most holy place. And then some of the prayers we discussed in detail in a previous session. So the Brahmins were, Nimai, he's reciting, he's reflecting on what he heard when he first entered Gaya Dham. The glorification, the Vedic hymns and the glorification of the lotus feet of the Lord by the Brahmins was so auspicious. And they were saying the Ganges became glorious as a result of being touched by his lotus feet. Lord Shiva realized the glories of that water by holding it on his head. That's the Ganga which has touched these lotus feet. By the influence of the water, this place has become famous as Pada Tirtha. So just by saying the name Pada Tirtha and remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, incessant tears of love of Godhead poured out from the eyes of Nimai. And the devotees said they'd never seen such a phenomena. There's such crying, such being overwhelmed in emotion just by reflecting and remembering the Pada Tirtha. So profuse were the tears of love of God emanating from the Lord's eyes that it watered the entire flower garden in Shachiyangan, in the house of Jagannath Mishra. The Lord was rolling on the ground and sighing deeply, repeating again and again the names of Krishna, and his whole body was horripilating, and he was shivering like an autumn leaf. Shriman Pandit Adi Joto Bhaktagan Dekhen Apurva Krishna Preme Krondon. Deki, the Sriman Pandit is the younger brother of Subhash Thakur, and we're going to hear he's playing a very significant role in this particular incident of Mahaprabhu returning and the first pastimes that occurred upon his return to Mayapur. Sriman Pandit, that's Subhash Thakur's younger brother. He was there. He was one of the confidential associates that Mahaprabhu took and began to reveal his emotions. So Sriman Pandit Adi, beginning with Sriman Pandit, Jota Bhaktagan, all of the devotees, Deken Apurva Krishna Preme Krandan, seeing this manifestation of love of Godhead, they all burst into tears in love of God, just seeing Mahaprabhu's behavior. They are astounded at seeing his crying love of God. Mone mone shabai chinten chomotkar emoto ihan kabu nahi deki ar. We've never seen emoto. We've never seen such. We've never seen him like this. Emoto ihan kabu nahi deki ar. We've never seen him like this before. Mone mone shabai chinten chomotkar. In their minds, everyone was completely. They're completely enchanted. Having never seen Nimai behave like this before. Goshundor, he began to speak, and he said to the devotees that I want to disclose to you the deep sadness in my heart, so you all come to the house of Suklambar Brahmachari. Nirabari Krishna Besh, Prabhur Sharire, constantly, Nirabari, without cessation. We were discussing the other week that when Mahaprabhu, he awakened it, he began the pastimes of Prem Bhakti Prakash, the love of God. It's not that it just happened at that time and then stopped. No, he was constantly overwhelmed with the feelings of love of God and the ecstasies of the Krishna Prema. And he would contain it, but sometimes he would just be unable to contain it. But it was constantly erupting in his heart. It's not that it stopped. He's awakened and that's it. He's always fully overwhelmed in the love of God. Niravadi Krishnavesh Prabhu Sharire. The ecstatic love of Godhead was constantly manifest in the Lord's body. And therefore, Mahabhirakter Prayi Babaha Kore. He lost all interest in the usual activities of life. He became so renounced. Mahabhirakter Prayi Babaha Kore. He lost all interest in the normal activities and he's just constantly overwhelmed in Krishna consciousness. Now Sachi Devi, she became bewildered seeing Nimai's behavior like this. Bujte na pare I putre choditra. I is an I. That's another name of Sachi Devi. Actually, Sachi Devi is from East Bengal, Srihatta, and she's called, that's the name from Srihatta that she has, I. So another name of Sachi Devi is I. I think I need to just take a short break of about 1 minute. Kindly persevere with me because it looks like I may be running out of power. Excuse me for not fixing that up before the session, but apologize for inconvenience. I'll just take 1 minute break. Apologies for that. My back. Pujtena pari ai putre charitra. Shushachi Devi, she was completely bewildered and she couldn't understand the behavior of her son, Nimai. Tatapi putra deki maha anandita. But at the same time, she was completely perplexed by his behavior, but at the same time, she was overjoyed to see him. So this was the situation she was experiencing. When he wept and cried in love of Godhead and the courtyard became filled with tears, she was completely perplexed. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is describing that the time for Mahaprabhu to begin the Sankirtan movement had begun, and news of this spread amongst all the devotees of Lord. That news spread amongst all the devotees, all the Vaishnavas, that Lord Chaitanya was constantly shedding tears of love of Godhead. Now, in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur, which you visited on your visits to Mayapur Dham, Srivas Angan, the courtyard of Srivas Thakur, Ek Kunda Gach Ache Srivasher Mondire, there is a Kunda Gach, a Kunda tree, that's a jasmine tree, in Srivas Mondire, in the home of Srivas Thakur, in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur. Kunda Rupe Kiba Kalpabrika Avatare. Actually, this tree, it's a kalpabrika. It's a spiritual tree from the spiritual world. Kalpabrika, means desire-fulfilling spiritual tree. Avatare, it has appeared kunda rupe, in the form of a kunda tree. A kalpabrika tree from Goloka had appeared in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur. So every morning, all the Vaishnavas, they're all Brahmins, Mahaprabhu's associates, the Vaishnava Brahmins, and so they all worship deities at home. And so every morning, because this special tree, it never exhausted. Actually, Kunda is just now Kunda is blooming in Mayapur. Every day we're picking Kunda. There's different types of Kunda. There's a bigger white one, there's a smaller white one, fragrant. I'm not sure down there in Mangalore if the Kunda is blooming at this time of year or in other places in India, maybe in North India. But here in East India and Bengal, the Kunda is blooming now, just at the end of Kartik, during Kartik and the end of Kartik, blooming. So we're meditating on this pastime. So all the devotees, because this particular Kunda tree, it gave an incessant production of Kunda. So there's no shortage. In Mayapur here sometimes there's battles, so you see devotees have to get up so early in the morning to pick the flowers. You see a tree on the side of the road in the morning, by 6 in the morning, there's no flowers. They're all devotees come, some with ladders. So this tree was very popular because it was never exhausted. There are so many kunda, you could pick and pick and pick, and there was always more kunda flowers. And all the devotees would gather around that kunda tree in the morning, and then they would discuss topics of Krishna. So this particular morning, Gadadha, Gopinath, Ram and Srivas Thakur, Gadadha Pandit, Gopinath and Ram, they're all enjoying each other's company and they're all there at the Kunda tree picking the flowers. And suddenly Sriman Pandit, he had been there the previous evening when Goshundor had invited some of the confidential devotees to share more of his experience in Gaya Dham. So Sriman Pandit, the younger brother of Srivas Thakur, he had been there and he came, picked flowers, laughing with joy, exuberant. Oh, the devotees, oh, you're so happy today. What's happened? Oh yes, certainly there's a reason, Sriman Pandit replied. Then please tell us the reason, the devotee said. And Sriman explained, then please hear the reason. Parama Adbhut Kotha Maha Ashambhav Nimai Pandit Hoilo Parama Vaishnav. The most Parama Adbhut Kotha, the most astounding news. Parama Adbhut Kotha Maha Ashambhav, the impossible. Maha Ashambhav. Nimai Pandit Hoilo Parama Vaishnav. Nimai Pandit has become a great Vaishnav. He had returned from Gaya. I went in the evening to meet him, and I've never seen his behavior. He spoke with such humility, without the slightest sign of arrogance and pride of his learning, as we used to see. He took us aside and telling us, he shared with us about his pilgrimage and the experiences that he had. Pada Pada Tirte, Loite Matra Nam, simply taking the name of Pada Pada Tirta. Pada Pada Tirte, Loite Matro Nam, simply saying the name of Pada Pada Tirte, Pada Pada Tirte, Noyon Erjole Shab, Puno Hoilo Stan. The whole place was filled with tears just upon him taking the name of Pada Pada Tirta. Pada Pada Tirta. Just saying the name, the whole courtyard, the whole place was filled with his tears. His whole body was overwhelmed with symptoms of shivering and horripilation. Crying out Lord Krishna's name, he fell to the ground unconscious. And again repeating Krishna's name. The tears from his eyes flowing like the flow of Maganga. Seeing this, we cannot consider him an ordinary human being. We've never seen such manifestations of ecstatic symptoms of love of God. So he said this to all of the Vaishnavas. Sriman Gadadha, who was there, he was speaking to. Sriman that Srivas Pandit, Gadadha Pandit, Gopinath Ram, all the devotees were hearing this description. Srimane Rabachan Shuniye Bhakta Gane, hearing this description of Sriman Pandit, Srimane Rabachan Shuniye Bhakta Gane, Hari Boli, Madhyani Korele Tokane, Mahadoni, Hari Boli, Mahadoni. Everyone said Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And then Henomate, in this way, Puja, Pushpa Tule, collecting the flowers, Bhagavat gone, Puja Kori Bare Shabai Korele Gamon. After hearing this news and all chanting Hari 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 and collecting flowers, they all returned to their respective residences to perform the puja. So Gadadha Pandit, he was there, and of course Gadadha Pandit, a very special Vaishnava, very special, very exalted. Nitya Lila, the expansion of the internal energy, Sri Radhika, Gadadha Pandit. So he didn't say anything, but he heard everything, and he was thinking, let me go to the house of Sukrambara Brahmachari, which is near the Ganga. Let me go and hear what Nimai has to say. Let me go and hear what he speaks about Krishna. So at the house of Suklambara, there was gathered there Sadashiva, Murari, Sriman Suklambara, and other devotees gathered there. And then Dvijaraj, the king of the Brahmins, the king of the twice-born, Vishwambara, he arrived there to meet the assembled devotees. And first he began reciting different slokas. And then explaining that I found my Lord, and then he disappeared. He began to embrace the pillars in the courtyard, in the home of Suklambara Brahmachari, crying out, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Even the pillars of the house broke. They broke under the pressure of Vishwambara's embrace. Krishna Ray, Prabhu Ray, more. Kono deko gelo, kondike gelo. Krishna Ray, Prabhu Ray, more. Kondika gelo. Oh, my Prabhu, my beloved Lord, where have you gone? Eto boli Prabhu puna bhumite porila. Again, and saying this again and again, Prabhu falling on the ground. Krishna preme kande Prabhu Shachinandan, out of love, in love of God. Mahaprabhu is crying in love of God. Chatur dike bedi kande bhaktagan, and in all around him the devotees are also crying in love of God, seeing his expressions of emotion. So Gadadha Pandit, he was in the other room. He wasn't exactly there in the room that Nimai was present in, and he was just listening and hearing everything. Gadadha Pandit fell down unconscious. Prabhu bole, Kon John, Grihe Bitore. Mahaprabhu asked, who is that inside the house? Brahmachari bolen tomar. Prabhu bole, Kon John, Grihe Bitor, Shuklam. Brahmachari bolen tomar Godadhar. Brahmachari, Sukumbar Brahmachari replied that tomar Godadhar. So hearing the name of Gadadhar, Mahaprabhu was immediately, he went and spoke to Gadadhar Pandit that you're so fortunate that from the very beginning of your life you were experiencing love of Krishna, and I wasted so much of my life absorbed in material knowledge, material learning. And now I found the most precious treasure of Krishna and he disappeared. Saying this again, Vishwambara fell on the ground in love of Godhead, repeatedly getting up and again falling unconscious. Grasping the necks of the devotees, Vishwambara wept, crying, where is Krishna? Brothers, please tell me, where is Krishna? Please bring me the son of Nanda Maharaj. Gadadhar, Shadashiva, Sriman Pandit, Suklambar, Adi Shabai, Hoilo, Bhishmit. All of the devotees, Gadadhar, Sadashiv, Sriman, Suklambara, etc., they're all completely amazed seeing Mahaprabhu's behavior. So after revealing these experiences to the intimate devotees in the house of Suklambara Brahmachari, the devotees, they departed and they began to share with all of the Vaishnava community that what had happened, the extraordinary news that Nimai has become such a exalted Vaishnava and is overwhelmed with love of Godhead. Shunya Shakal Mahabhagavad Gan Hari Hari Bole Shabai Karen Karandan. Shunya, hearing this, Shakal Mahabhagavad Gan, all of the devotees, Hari Hari Bole, Hari Hari Kore Karandan. And they all began crying and calling out Hari Hari. So next week we will hear about the next pastime, Mahaprabhu, upon returning from Gaya Dham and sharing his intimate realizations and emotions with the confidential devotees. And then the news of him becoming a great devotee had spread all through Odiya. Nimai then goes to the residence of his guru, Gangadas Pandit, and we'll hear what eventuated when he went to see Gangadas Pandit in the session next week. So are there any questions on the topics discussed?
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams.
Okay.
Pranams Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Adideva Gopal Das Prabhuji. If you have any question, please ask Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams.
Adidev.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams. Am I audible?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, you mentioned about that Mahaprabhu where he stayed in Gaya, where he cooked for Ishwara Prabhupada. Is that place still there, Prabhu?
Say that again, please.
The place where Mahaprabhu stayed in Gaya Dham and he cooked for Ishwara Prabhupada, is that place still there, Prabhu?
It's mentioned in the previous chapter. Or did you ask where's the place?
Yes. Is that place there now in Gaya?
I've been to Gaya Dham a couple of times, but we have ISKCON there. Because Gaya is famous, the Vishnupad temple is there, and also there's the Bodh Gaya, which is the where the Gautam Buddha received perfection. So those places are famous and they're visited by a lot of people. But we didn't visit where Nimai had his residence in Gaya Dam, so I'm not aware that that has been identified and established.
Prabhu, at the place where he took Diksha, is that there now? Where he took Diksha from Ishwarapuri Prabhupada?
Can you say that again?
The place where he took Diksha from Ishwarapuri Prabhupada, is that place there now?
Well, it's not, I mean, generally, yeah, it's not a particular special place there that's identified. This is the place where he received initiation. But generally, Ishwarapuri was, they first met at the temple, just beside the lotus feet of Madhusudan. So actually where he gave him the mantras, he gave him a 10-syllable Diksha mantra and a Hare Krishna Maha mantra. Where that actually happened, we don't particularly see a specific place. But generally, as Vrindavandas Thakur explains in another place, Jaistan, Vaishnav Korean Bijoy, Shaistan Hoy, Otipun Tirtamoy. The event happened, the whole place is surcharged with special spiritual potency. Mahaprabhu was initiated there, whether it was actually in the temple or in the temple compound or Saraswati. The Palgun River is also flowing there, the pastimes there. So the whole place is surcharged with spiritual energy. And that Mahaprabhu received initiation at that place, that everywhere is surcharged with spiritual energy at that place.
Thank you. My last question, where is this house, Prabhu? Shukurambar, the Brahmachari, you mentioned his name just now, Brahmachari Shuk.
Please, again.
The place where Mahaprabhu, when Gadar Pandit he mentioned, he
Sukumbar
heard
Brahmachari's
about
house.
went to meet Mahaprabhu. That
Sukumbar
place.
Brahmachari's house. Where is that? Is that the question?
Yes, Prabhu. Where is this Prabhu? Like, is it there now?
Mentioned here. It's mentioned here that Sriman Pandit, this is text 78 of the chapter 1, Madhya-kanda. Sriman Pandit went to the house of Suklambar Brahmachari on the banks of the Ganga.
Okay.
On the banks of the Ganga. So it's not far from Mahaprabhu's birthplace, Jogapit. The Ganga was flowing close by. There's different ghats are there. And now the Ganga is shifted. So it's there around, it's not far from Suklambar Brahmachari's house, was obviously close by Vishrambar's house on the banks of the Ganga.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, there perhaps.
Anything else this morning, Bhakta Vrinda? Once again, apologies for the break and the technical thing. Had to give the charge. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And we look forward to your association next week. We'll carry on hearing about Mahaprabhu visiting. He visits Gangadas Pandit, and then he visits other devotees, Srivas Pandit, Advaita Acharya, and we'll hear all of the meetings that he has with his various intimate associates next week and the subsequent weeks to that. Thank you very much. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Andama Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, there perhaps.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Sadhu
Krishna.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.